Did you get new shoes?
Me, yeah, I got some. Mary brought me some new kicks.
What are those?
Anytime she sees, they're Under Armour. She called them like Zooms or something. She goes, "You want some Zooms?" I was like, "I don't know what they are, but sure, I'll try them out." It's hard to find 15s, so yeah.
BigShoes.com.
Bigshoes.com. Follow me on OnlyFans. Like and subscribe. Link in the bio.
All right, I got jokes today, so I got one for you too. Because I always like to make Will read one out of the blue. Actually, I haven't done jokes with anybody else.
I was going to say, it sounds like sometimes you do them pre or post and then throw them in there.
I decided I was going to do pre for a couple of the guest steps, but anyways. All right, if you're new to the pod, wait. I'm trying to think what order we are going in. Sorry for if we have any new female listeners that have joined since Karen's couple of episodes. These aren't my... These are a few, boy-leaning jokes, to be honest. Except this first one. After cutting Bud Light sales by nearly 25%, conservatives now want nothing to do with their successful boycott. It came out as a girl caught. All right, that's kind of that's a hacky one. That's probably 1,000 of those on Twitter, but Utah mom Corey Richens is on trial for poisoning her husband with fentanyl for insurance money. This week, it came out that her phone history included searches for lie detectors, death certificates, and luxury prisons for the rich. My advice to future criminals: be a hipster when it comes to crime. Do the legwork with Encyclopedia Britannica. Better yet, your taxes are already helping you commit random crimes. Your local library. Find out what you want to know about drugs in prison, untracked and for free, and you might Dang it, why can't I talk today? Find out what you want to know about drugs in prison, untracked and for free, and you might catch a glimpse of saggy jungle boobs in an old National Geographic. Okay, I got one for Nate here. Oh, wait, Nate's on the pod. I would have already introduced you. Oh, and we got Will's conversation in there. Here, right on top.
Oh, you want me? Oh, I'm reading it. All right. All right. Broadway actors had shows canceled due to the severity of smoke from Canadian wildfires. Something tells me it's not everyone's first time being sickened by inflamed wood.
Come on,
I figured that was going to be an anti-Canada joke there or something.
The Trump document indictment dropped last week, or whatever week we post this episode. The former president had military and nuclear info in places like a ballroom and bathroom. Where you see a megalomaniac trying and failing to get away with crimes, I see a guy doing his best to keep things sexy in the relationships. No, honey, I'm not dropping a sloppy load. I said I'm reading nuclear codes. It's plausible deniability. So what if a few spies die if that's the price for keeping the romance alive? There's no Secret Service for what a cocaine-chased Whopper from a dirty Burger King will do to your bowels at 2 a.m. You wine and dine your beloved to see the sun kiss their full rosy cheeks at the end of an intoxicating evening, not to imagine them sweatily pinching off a hot loaf. If Trump's guilty of anything, it's making sure Melania continues seeing him as her erotic soulmate. Case closed.
So erotic.
He just put those things in there for something to read.
Oh.
I had a couple of things I was going to bring up because based on sort of my impression of you that I wanted to ask about, but like I said, Tammy was asking where you're from and everything like that. So I was hoping to get the 3-minute to 5-minute growing up Big Nate's trading cards, 0 to 41.
41, almost 42. Yeah. So born in Linwood, or actually Everett, and then lived in Linwood for a little bit. But spent a majority of my youth in Mount Vernon. So born and raised there. I've got 2 siblings, got an older brother and an older sister. My brother lives somewhere in Arizona, and sister's now in Yakima, just moved like a week ago. So, they just sold their house.
Was she here before still?
Issaquah.
Okay.
So, yeah, and she was part of the reason I moved back up, was just to get closer to family that was up here and just come back. I'd spent a little time in California. But yeah, lived in Mount Vernon until I was 16. Dad died, so my mom wanted a big change, and so we moved to California. So
When you were 16?
Yeah, 16 going on 17, moved to California.
How did he pass away?
Heart attack. Yeah, day after Mother's Day.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And your parents were together? You had a normal sort of...
Semi-normal. So that was my stepdad. So
Okay.
my real dad died when I was 3.
You're 0 for 2?
0 for 2.
Dang.
Yeah, so he had leukemia and died when I
wow.
was like 2.5, 3. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, as nonchalant as I can make that, it's like, yeah, pretty normal upbringing,
Okay, so no.
So no, totally,
Yeah.
totally odd upbringing. But lived in, that was kind of the shock. My parents had just, bought a house and demoed it and rebuilt it to what they were hoping for. And then, just out of nowhere that happens.
Crazy.
So, but.
And your mom had family down there or something like that?
No. So my mom did the kind of crazy thing where just had a,
tried to make her kids child actors or something?
Yeah.
No.
So I was on a show called Step by Step. No,
I'm out of ideas.
To be honest, she had met someone and
Yeah.
they had lived in California, and I think she just took it as an opportunity for a big change. Crazy stuff had happened up here. 2 husbands in a 16-year span, or actually less than that. Like that's a 12-year. Well, I'm so bad at math.
And when you're 16, how far apart are your brother and sister?
We're all about 1.5 years apart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So brother at the time was 17 going on 18, and then sisters, 20 at the time or something. No. Like I said, really bad at math. But yeah, we're all about 18. I think they're actually 2 full years apart. So 18, she was 20, 21 at the time. So yeah.
Yeah, 16 is kind of weird and moving and everything, not just losing a parent, but just, moving down to California is probably like you're sort of able to process things as an adult, because 16 is pretty, I guess depending on who you are, but, 16 is a pretty mature age, but you still don't have the best grip on the world you can have.
I think it's that, like, I joke, I use this word probably a little too much, but it's like that tweener stage.
Yeah.
Where you're, kind of an adult, but you're still not. You're still immature and, a 16-year-old or 17-year-old, and yet you just haven't really tasted the real world yet.
Right.
But that really brings it to the forefront.
Yeah.
That kind of puts some stuff a little quicker than it should have been,
Yeah.
But yeah, lived in California for, I think it was 12 years. I spent down there. I was a newspaper press operator for a long time, and then had my daughter down there, and then moved back up here.
So then you would have been 28 or something.
I was 29. Yeah, 29.
Wow.
So yeah, moved back up at 29, and then had the newspaper that I worked at had a sister plant up here, and they paid way more because it was a union shop. So it was like, if I could get into that shop, that would be great. So it was kind of the catalyst to get me back home and, kind of start life up here. But yeah, and then from there, I deal with what every person in those industries deal with, which was a big layoff. And so I went through like a whole crazy year of change where laid off from my job and divorced my wife at the time, and just kind of transitioned to a new job at the same time. And it was just like all these things kind of went crazy all at once. It was like 33 or something at the time with all this like big change happening. And then, yeah, then landed on my feet at Meta. Met my now fiance, and then yeah, I don't know where it all happened from in there, but then had like the craziest, 5-6 year stretch from crazy jiu-jitsu tournaments and pro MMA fights and opening up a business. So yeah, there's a couple different chapters of life, but this last 7 years has been like the craziest.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, so then I meet you through Will.
Yep.
And to me, it just looks like you're this guy who has like all this stuff going on, involved in all kinds of things. We did the jingle for the Big Nades, and then I saw your logo. And then later I met you and I was like, oh, wow, he really actually does look like the logo.
Right?
Nobody has looked more like a logo than you look like your card shop logo, I think.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like if there could be a perfect animation of a person, it was definitely that. My buddy Jerome did a great job on that.
I know, that's funny. Yeah, Declan's like, is the guy with the beard on his chin coming over? Oh, yeah.
Right, you got to be known for something, right? It's either a big ogre or a beard on the chin. So
hey, not to be that guy, but you keep smacking the mic with this hand. I know. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
I'm trying to not interrupt.
I told you there's going to be a problem.
I'm not trying to interrupt the flow. Okay. I just was going to start the conversation here. We could talk about anything or whatever, but I was just looking for a place to start, and I was thinking my impression of you is like as this go-getter, because you did have this other job. You are doing, you're just not doing MMA as a hobby, doing some coaching, doing tournaments where you actually are travel. You're not just doing it, for a little exercise in the morning or whatever. Then all of a sudden in the last couple of months, transitioning to your card shop business, which is crazy. And, so at the same time, obviously I've talked nonstop on the podcast about getting on pills and Adderall and that sort of like a bunch of stuff with me and motivation and everything coming to a head and starting to understand myself more, while at the same time having 2 kids and, now knowing myself better and, seeing my kids be so 100% completely different, like personality wise. I even say from the smallest thing to like, it's kind of cliche, but it's like from day one, like Landon, he wanted to be swaddled in the, blankets, wrap him up. You do on the first day and he's just content. Boom, there. First day, Tammy's labor was longer with Declan, and he was born like in the evening. And then so we're trying to like swaddle him, and then I just go like, okay, we'll swaddle him up. We'll get an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever. And then, he's in the swaddle for 1 minute, and then he's snaking his way out of it. And, pretty soon he's busted out of that skin and he's got his arms flapping. And I was like, maybe I forgot how to swaddle in the last 6 years or whatever.
How do I make this baby burrito?
I'm like, I could do this better, tighten it up. 2 minutes later, he's out of it again. And again and again and again. And like, so Tammy and I, after this long labor where we're already all tired out, we didn't really get upset or like, we didn't like reach a point of like at our wits' end too much. Me, anyways, or as a couple with Landon. But on the first night with Declan, we're just like, oh my gosh, we need to like rest because he's going to be up again soon and feeding and everything. And it's just like, he did not want to, he didn't want to stay in the burrito. And he hasn't wanted to stay in the burrito, ever since. He's the one running around doing stuff. And the thing I think about, he has a different type of motivation Landon has his own motivation, but he definitely has a motor for things that, Landon doesn't have. And a simple thing will be like, he has these Lego sets that are like 3-in-1, and they're pretty cool. It's a car, but then you can make a roadster, you can make a, whatever. Then you can make a F1 looking, and he'll get it built, and it's not built for 60 seconds. And he's like, okay, Dad, can you help me tear this apart? So we tear it all apart, and then he's on to building it again. And some of those Lego sets, he's built 20 times, and Landon will be like, oh, he'll do it fast, just like Declan does. It'll take him the same amount of time, so it's not like intelligence thing. It's still, taking him the same amount of time. But as soon as Landon does it, he's like, okay, put it on the shelf. It's almost like I got my high out of that piece or whatever. But Declan, he does everything like that. So he's into dominoes. He gets the different tracks out. He's doing the thing. He's really motivated to get it, falls through the tube and it hits the ball and it goes down. He's got his Rube Goldberg machine or whatever it's called. And, obviously, Tammy and I parent the same way. Obviously, there's an older brother in the house, so that's probably some of it. Like the drawing you saw on his, wall or into his room. It's like he was seeing Landon's, but obviously he took it to another level. But there is something inherent to them that you can't sort of deny. And that's what I feel like if I look at somebody like you, I think like, oh man, what would I be like if and I don't know if it's true or not, but seemingly from the outside looking in, I was like, oh, here's this guy with this sort of like inner motor that is just something that's not in me. And yeah, you can maybe try to discipline yourself, force yourself, take more steps. Like I said, intelligence, not everybody has certain strengths and things like that. But how do you view yourself? Do you see yourself as like a, person with a high motor? Do you consider yourself like a type A person? How do you picture yourself in terms of that?
Yeah. Like the high motor is a great way to put it, where it's just like, I feel like I could just go, the morning when I wake up, my day starts at, 4:15, getting up to go do jiu-jitsu. And now without the metagenics job, I don't have to be anywhere until about 11 o'clock, but I'm still up training and we're then, filling stuff in there. But yeah, definitely high motor. And it's taken me a long time to realize like not everyone has that. But it also took me a long time to develop where I'm at right now, which is like the weirdest thing. I don't know if 10 years ago could have told you that this is what I was going to do. I was in jiu-jitsu, I was working, trying to be a dad, all that kind of stuff. But to do what I'm doing now, which is that balance of, full-time card shop, I teach jiu-jitsu. If people are listening, they're going to find out, 5 days a week, I have 4 on the books and 1 off the books, private lessons on the weekends. And then, trying to be a dad and, good fiance, which sometimes is those are hard, but I know there's a good path, what I'm putting in place and lessons I'm trying to show my kids of like, if you want something, you got to like kind of work your ass off and do some of these things. I was actually just telling my son this the other day where it's like, there's a couple different kinds of people in this world. There's, naturally talented people that can just do stuff. And then there's like hard workers. I am not naturally talented at all. I'm kind of clumsy, but I will be the hardest worker, like I will just outwork anyone if I need to. And that's not one of those like, totally. Bravado things, but it's just like, I know who I am, and like just I wanted some goals. I didn't want to be at a certain point in life anymore. And I wanted something, I wanted to be able to take this venture that we really was just like a crazy idea in 2018 of just like, what could this be? We're visiting a card shop in North Carolina or South Carolina, and I'm getting inspired like, oh my God, I could do this, to turning it into what it is today. Which, still isn't, it's farther than I ever thought I was going to go, but it's still not where I've still got other visions of it. So But yeah, and it's just, I think it's something where it's like my sister's the same way. Like she's had 2 to 3 jobs forever. So she's worked Costco forever. Then she's been a nanny and she's been a personal assistant. And it's just this drive that for whatever reason was put into us that we just didn't want to be what we, if my mom listens to this, she's going to hate it, but we grew up a certain way and we just didn't want to be that. We don't want to go back to that. We just grew up really, government housing and, just not in the best situations. My parents did what they could, but, but we just never want that again.
Right.
And I don't want that for my kids. So it was just, even though it made us who we are, which is funny, but we don't want that for them. So,
yeah, there is a lot of inertia to keep you in that place, whether it's keeping you in your town or keeping you here or there, or just like an internal, I don't know. It just seems like I've stopped trying to sort of moralize like people's motivation.
Right.
Because even with my kids, I see like, oh, this is just like, it's in their physiology somewhere. And eventually everybody makes choices in terms of like, what are you doing? What are you doing with your level of intelligence? What are you doing with your level of opportunity? What are you doing with your level of whatever the things are that you have? It's like, you can still do 100% of, what your tools are or whatever.
Oh yeah. So like when I was I was a newspaper press operator, and the one thing that my boss at the time told me was that this job will never make you rich, but it'll never make you broke. And because of my upbringing, it's like that was like a safe job, right? It was like, this is safe. This is something that you want to go do. You're going to be able to provide for your family. It's going to be good. Well, like we had the talk earlier, 2008 and 2009 changed everything, right? All of a sudden, it's like jobs are like pulling back and doing some, cutting hours, cutting pay, doing all these things. You really can't afford to live anymore. And to me, that was a huge catalyst of like, I can go one of two ways here. I can take a huge chance to move to this job that might not be there just to put me in a better situation, or I can stay here and be safe, because that's kind of what our parents put into us, right? Where it was just like, don't make the crazy leap, because that could be dangerous and can affect you and your family. You don't want to do that to your 2 kids. I don't want to do it to my daughter, or that now, with 3 kids, it's like that thing. But then because of the way I'm wired, it was once I kind of unlocked that path of like, no, take that chance, do it in a safe way. We were very like, it was a smart decision of how we did the card shop, especially with COVID. It was such a strange time, but it was like we were really smart about it. But then to finally take the leap and go, okay, it's in a position now. It can start doing what we need it to do, which is, cover my pay, which was it from Meta Money plus some, and start doing that. But yeah, no, you could totally get into those traps of, you only think that you can go so far because it's a safe move. And there's a lot of people that just don't want to take a risk or take a leap. And sometimes you really got to get out of your comfort zone. It's not for everyone, it really isn't. I keep smacking the mic.
Oh,
so I'm just
sorry.
Like, damn it.
I was in the conversation. I wasn't even noticing now, but actually something that came up with Karen that I've actually been thinking about the last couple of weeks since I talked to her is, kind of like the stories you have for yourselves, or the stories you have in your family. And, for me, it was, my parents got married young and they had a pretty challenging upbringing, but they were sort of motivated by not wanting to totally become how they grew up. So even though it's difficult, my dad's doing night school, he's getting promotions. My mom is picking up jobs where she needs to, but is trying to work part-time so she can, be there so much as a parent because she didn't have that. And so that was a big story, just like, just basic care. Like we're doing the minimum, like we're being good parents, and that should be like the minimum thing. And we didn't have that. So like, hey, this is like very important. And the other thing is my mom had all these close relationships with, so her best friend from high school, went on to be, lifetime missionary. She was in Africa for a long time. Genocide. She was an AIDS nurse is primarily what she did.
Wow.
And so anyways, been doing that her whole life. Single. She stayed single her whole life too. And really just like, that was her whole life. She's done a lot of amazing things. And then her youth pastors at that time, which again, like because of her family situation, that was her safe space. So her youth group, her youth pastors, they were everything to her. They were lifetime missionaries as well. And they were a little bit more of the traditional missionaries, I guess you'd say, like setting up churches, setting up schools, setting up. But again, you know, they're in Africa their whole lives. You know, they're sending their kids to boarding schools in a different place, you know, international, which, you know, pros and cons and everything else to it. Neither of their lives were perfect by any means, but those were some of the big stories in their lives. And I think my mom sort of probably had aspirations that way when she was younger. And so those were the books she was reading in our homes, you know, people who, you know, did a lot, you know, whether it was for the church or for a missionary or just people who were sort of self-sacrificing or whatever. Those were a lot of the stories in our house. So me, you know, I was a pastor for some time. And like when I went to college, I specifically got a business degree so that I could support myself. I was going to be a pastor on one hand but have some knowledge in case, you know, not everybody can afford to pay a pastor, or maybe there's times where you don't or whatever. That's how it worked out. I was a volunteer pastor for a long time. And that was my motivation. But also, I didn't think I had a good relationship with money. And I'm not making it a money thing, but it's like there were some times where I felt like I left money on the table or I didn't go to the right situation because I said, it's not a right or wrong, but it's sort of like, I have a livable life and this is good.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like, and because that sort of matched my personality, that's where it sort of gets funky for me. And I think like, oh, I wish I had that attitude mixed with the, you know, kick-ass attitude a little bit too. It's like, I want to be satisfied, but also have an engine inside of me a little bit more. And it's funny because even a couple of days ago on the weekend, it's like I pruned out some, I know it's not even the time for pruning, but you know, these pills have me doing crazy things, but it's like, I pruned out some of these trees back here, you know, that haven't been touched in years and years probably. And I'm just like so proud of myself. And I'm like, who am I? Oh my gosh. You know, I'm just spending like 2 hours doing the most basic sort of yard work, you know, imaginable.
Like anytime you admire yard work, you just question who you are as a human. You're like, Mary and I built a patio years ago and laid it out, and we're standing there looking at it. I'm like, who the fuck am I? This is the weirdest thing ever. Yet I was just as stoked about that as I was like winning a tournament. Because I was like, there's a lot of sweat and blood in that patio.
I need some hobbies. Yeah. So then through, meeting you and John and, you know, Rob and everybody, it's been fun, you know, the last couple of years getting to, meet you. I still think we should hang out, get dinner or something sometime. But, so I've always had, like I said, I don't know you that well, but obviously you have all the stuff going on in your life. And I'm like, oh man, if I could just have like 10% of that or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know where it's like, I mean, I think you can anyone can do some of these things, right? Like the business thing is, I think it's a little different, but it's like with training, you know, it's just if someone wants to do it, it doesn't even have to be jiu-jitsu or MMA or anything. Right. It's like just that little bit of like, you find the workout stuff that you like. Yeah. I just happen to like, you know, I like violence, and so I like choking people and breaking arms. It's just, you know, it's one of those things. But it's funny how like how I've gained a huge chunk of my friends. You know, it's how I met Will was because he's checking a gym out with someone that I fought. And so his buddy Alex was a guy that was coming into the gym and helping him, you know, look for gyms. And I always find it funny. Then Will and I become such good friends afterwards. And it's like, but I remember that day so vividly, Will walking through and then seeing him. And I was like, oh shit, I know that guy. You know, I had a good scrap with him, but it's just so funny, like how you can meet people from that way too. So I know you guys have talked about like, you know, friends in the church and how like that's a thing for you guys. And I almost feel the same way with jiu-jitsu, where like you end up finding these people that maybe like different walks of life, different kind of everything. And you just find some people and it's like, holy crap, you know, I didn't think I'd be, you know, friends with someone, not someone like Will, but like, you know, Will's an international dog
like
shower, you know? I mean, it's like, did we think that we'd be friends with him, you know? But you know, you just never know. And like, and then the little connections, you know, you meet someone like John that knows, you know, every person in the harbor and every person in Tacoma. And then you just start making these connections. So no, I think it's something where, yeah, that's a motor thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I totally understand that, but there's also things that people can do that they probably limit themselves on.
Yeah.
Where it's just naturally and shit. There's a ton of things that I even feel like I leave on the table, you know, on a daily or weekly or monthly basis. But it's just I put my energy towards this or that, and then just start moving forward with it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I forgot the side thing. It was funny when we went out. I don't know why this sticks in my mind too, but when we went out for Will's bachelor party and then we sat down and John was like, hey, do I know the server or whatever? He's like, oh yeah, he came over to my house for dinner or whatever. And it was just like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, I know what kind of guy John is now.
Oh yeah, you go anywhere, like we'll be on the golf course and like 3 or 4 people know him. We'll be out having lunch. We'll be just like doing anything. Where I felt like it was the craziest, we do the Swing for the Soldier every year. And he knows Packy, which is one of the guys that runs the whole thing. But that was like as much of like being with a celebrity without being a celebrity I've ever experienced in my life, where it was like every person knew John, wanted to come up and shake his hand, wanted to meet who he was meeting. And I don't think I've ever experienced something like that with literally 100 different people walking up and being like, oh, John,
That's awesome.
Shit. So it was crazy to experience, especially when you get to know John. You're like, why would they like him? I don't understand this, but...
So the golf outing, was it last week or the week before? You guys went on for John's sober anniversary or whatever.
Yeah, it's 10 years sobriety.
That was you, John, Will, and Rob.
Yeah.
Give me everybody's golf game.
Oh.
And course etiquette.
Oh boy. So John is probably the best golfer of that foursome. Then you've got Will and Rob are tied for second. Will's just a little hasn't had as much time as the rest of us lately.
John's Hispanic. Maybe he's got the loose hips.
He's like the Shakira out there. Those hips don't lie, man.
Exactly.
You follow his Instagram video, whipping those hips like it wouldn't believe.
I knew it.
Yeah, but you know, like I would say, etiquette wise, you know, we're all trying to run each other over. We're all just, you know, talking while someone's shooting, and there's not a lot of etiquette going on. But then someone gets dialed in, and I think subconsciously we're all like, "Oh shit, there, you know, this is a good shot. We need to be quiet right now." I noticed it with Rob. Rob was getting dialed in on some stuff, and I kept being quiet, and he was like, "No, stop. You know, just keep talking, just keep doing what we're doing." But yeah, no, and I feel like I'm just there, you know, for either comedic relief or just, you know, for them to point and laugh at.
Who gets angry and then you start going at them harder because it's like, come on, we're just goofing around, like, chill.
I think especially that day, I was sucking pretty bad, so I was getting hard on myself. So then John eggs that on, you know, and he's just, he's pointing and laughing. And but yeah, and then we were giving Will shit too, because it was just like, you know, what happened? You know, last time we were golfing, but it's like, wait, you haven't golfed in like 3 months because you've been, you know, helping, you know, preggers out, and then now new daddy. But yeah, no, there was a lot of just, I'd say it's just one big circle of giving each other shit.
Yeah. I know, not to bring down the pod, but I finally reached out to a surgeon about my hands. I got my carpal tunnel sitch happening. So
really,
yeah. If I can get that worked out, I might have to. I'll come. I don't know everybody's golf game, but I'll just throw it out there. I'm going to come school everybody.
I'm interested to see, because if it's anything, because you grew up like Will playing, right?
A little bit.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I think it'd be fun.
I basically had a year and a half in college, and shout out, rest in peace, Steve Boyce, a guy I used to work with, passed away. I was thinking of you this week too, or just when you were talking, he was a guy, he worked at Boeing. He was a print shop guy.
Okay.
And they went from, digitized. So they went from a group of, 15 guys down to 2 or whatever.
Right.
And he came over to the college, and, he's a guy who was, I don't know how old he was then, maybe 50 or something like that. And he'd only ever done print stuff, starting a new career. So he's in the registrar's office at the college looking at transcripts, the same as me. And it's got to be so, humbling to be sitting across from a 20-year-old, 19-year-old who's, got the same level of knowledge in a job that you have when you had a career, you put your kids through college, and you did all this stuff,
So I remember when I got laid off that I did the same thing. Went down to, I think, what do they call it, WorkSource, and sitting in there and thinking about college, thinking about all these other things. And the big thing they're pushing on everyone, especially at my time, it was early 30s, they're pushing truck driving for everyone. That's like, don't go to college, go be a truck driver. Oh, you can make $100,000 a year, you can do all this. And it's like, you're also never going to see your family. But it's definitely, if I can 100% relate to that, especially running from these double width offset presses that are just as big as buildings to digital. 15 to 2 is the exact number that you're not even lying on that. So it's, I can totally relate to that.
So when he came over, I don't know, he had been a good golfer in high school and in college, and he had just either got a new set of clubs or something happening. And I'd got a set of clubs then too. And I think he just had a little partner in me. So the Bellevue Municipal Course was right across, like a 2-minute drive from our work. And the summer times, I think of it too, because we would go, like on Fridays, we would go at 6 a.m. We'd play a real quick round. All the guys in the office, we'd play a super quick round and get in the office at 9 and just go about our normal work day. But it's like you could do that because it was hot and bright out there in the summertime. And everybody's a little more casual in the summer, And, but anyways, it was during that maybe 2 years or something. It was the first time I had got like all my yardages dialed in, and, we would just go to the range a few times a week, and we weren't playing a lot, and we were just going to the range really mostly. But it was amazing how just like, a couple of hours of practice a week, and your body just either gets used to that motion, you get a little more comfortable, like where your ball's going to land. And
it's the weirdest thing though, coming from where I'm a professional in one world and I'm not in the golf world, and sucking so bad. Like you can hit all those Instagram reels are right on point, because you can just hit a bomb, unbelievable shot, whether or not it's from a driving or an iron shot or whatever it is, and you feel great. And then you go up there and, 5-putt. And it really humbles you, especially when, like you say, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 15 years, black belt, I got a pretty good resume and feel really good, and then just go and absolutely suck so bad. And I hate the fact that John's better than me at anything. And the fact that he's so good at golf compared to me, it's just like, I, kind of want to like heel hook him over out there and be like, all right, well now you can't pivot off your foot, But no, I mean, we'd love to get you out there. It'd be great, man.
Yeah. So it was fun because this guy too, you could see he's sort of like I don't know if he didn't play golf as much or whatever, but it's kind of funny. I don't know if you feel this way too. I don't know what kind of guy you were like in high school or college or whatever. Or you didn't go to college?
I did 1 year. Yeah, I was like a JUCO guy.
But that time in your life or like your interests or whatever, and it was sort of like, it was like his one sort of joy because he had just got laid off, but yet he was finding like life out on the golf course again. He was like a little bit like a kid. And anyways, it was almost like fun to see that as like through his eyes, I guess, in a way, you know.
Well, you're playing with him and you're getting to see like this joy
Yeah.
that maybe you didn't get to see or didn't know of. And you're just like, holy shit, this guy is stoked about just playing 18 out here, you know? And for you, maybe you're just like, oh, cool, I can go to work at 9 and no big deal. But for him, it's like, that's everything.
Yeah. It was the first time he got one of those drivers that sounds like like an aluminum bat, you know, just get the big shink,
nice,
you know, that
pink
echoes
right
everywhere.
on there. Yep.
Anyways, yeah, that's one of my favorite TikTok lanes is guys who you can tell when like they're walking up to their ball, they're already like so angry. They've been playing bad all day and their friends are just like going in on them and everything in them is just like, if I hit another bad shot and they make fun of me one more time, I'm going to lose it. And because they're just so angry, of course, that's what happens every time.
Oh, yeah. Well, the guys that like crack me up are like the ones that like break their clubs. It's like, it is not the club's fault you suck. You know, it's not.
I mean, I've never hit in front of like, 10,000 fans, but the idea of hitting like your 50th bad shot in front of your 3 closest friends who already have 10 insults lined up for you.
Oh, yeah. That's why scrambles are the best because
Standing
that way
over the ball.
That way you don't have to like you can just like you can play like shit, play off the best ball, have 5 good shots on the day as long as you're playing with someone that's decent. That's the way to go.
I played a local like real estate tournament thing with my grandma once when I was, I don't know, maybe 12 or something. And it was one of those things, like, it was probably the first time I had played where there was other people around because there was just, like, either vendors on each hole or just people hanging out, watching the tournament, whatever. And it was really nerve-wracking. And on one hole, I just towed it, and I put a ball about 90 degrees into the inside of the windshield of somebody sitting in a golf cart, like over here. And it was so embarrassing. And it was just like crazy. It was hard. It was like the first time, it was like going from singing in the shower to, like going on stage, and that's what it was like. But yet on this little par 3, I hit a perfect shot and I won a trophy for closest to the pin.
That's awesome.
And that was like my pride and joy. It's like, I didn't have to tell anybody about the rest of the day, but it's just, one good shot. That's all.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably told people for the next couple of weeks, like, no big deal. But there I was closest to the pin.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Well, they put and also it was like, it was like a good comedy thing because instead of like association, you might put ASSC or OC or something. It said Gig Harbor Ass of Realtors. And so I was like, I have to hang on to this forever now because it's like, number one, my parents don't let me say ass, but it's on the trophy. So it's like Ass of Realtors.
Yep. And you're just repeating that over and over again. You're like, oh, hey, Mom, remember that Ass of Realtors trophy I got? Cool. I just want to make sure you remember that. That was 10 years ago. Stop saying it.
Yeah. That's funny.
Well, you'll have to get your game right before, I don't know, I'm not telling John what he's got to do, but I know a bachelor party is going to be coming up in the next, 6 to 8 months, I guess. We'll see when that is, but I think it's going to be a little golf venture, so.
Oh, that'd be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get that hand right.
Yeah, I'm not going to presume I'm going to be anywhere near the wedding, but if we need to tune some people up, I'd be out there for a round or two. Yeah, hopefully, getting a little surgery will get my arms right. I do miss that. I do just like going and hitting a bucket of balls. Like, it is same for me. It's just like I didn't play a lot, but it's like I did play when I was like really young. So it is that thing. It's like you've been doing your whole life or whatever. So it like connects with you in a weird way.
Oh, totally. We had I didn't golf in Mount Vernon. We had a little putt-putt course up there, and we had a friend that his mom owned it. So we would just go up there and we would either play for free or we would play for like one person paid. And so that's what started like the golf venture was just constantly going up and playing putt-putt till the fact that then moving to California, my brother worked at a golf course as a chef and then ended up He's left-handed, kind of a weirdo, but they ended up having left-handed clubs there, and he was kind of a natural. And so then I went and bought some like $100 Walmart set, and yeah, that's how the golf thing started.
Yeah.
Have never been good, but just enough to keep me going, you know.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it's super fun, and like this last year, it's been overdrive. So especially since March 10th.
Well, especially okay. So if people are, if we're making comments about our golf game, one of my pride and joys of more recent time was there was this 9-hole course in Port Orchard that was like so bad, and
Those are the best, though.
it was not even. I can't even remember what it's called. Oh, Village Greens.
Oh yeah.
Shame on me for almost forgetting. And I don't know what they did. Like the greens are all like elevated in like a weird way or something. It's awful. But I show up to play Matt and his brother Sean, and again, it's tiny. I mean, it's mostly like a par 3 course except for like 2 holes.
Right.
So I just show up. Well, and this was like a power move on my part. So I knew what this was going to look like, and so it was pretty much not even about the golf. It was probably just for this moment. It's just like I just roll in with a 7-iron and a putter.
That's all you showed up with.
Oh.
Christ.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was, first of all, immediately I'm the alpha of the group, you know.
Establishing dominance right away.
Yeah. And I did win that day. And it's such a stupid thing, you know. It is like, I don't actually care. But for some reason, like in my mind, that is one of those memories that's just like, oh, yeah. 7-iron putter and just took care of business that day.
That's a flex right there. Just showing up and being like, but there's a couple courses you can do that on. You can't go to Madrona and do that.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
you can go to Highlands and do that.
Yeah.
You can go to Meadow Park and do that. And then obviously Village Greens.
Yeah.
I still haven't played there yet, but I need to get up there. I know it's
No, you
really
don't.
close
No,
to
you
my
don't.
buddy Chris's place. So
If you want to be an alpha,
Yeah.
show up with a 7-iron and a putter.
Right.
Take care of business.
I feel like I had to get that close to the mic. That's like what do you call that? It's like a tradition thing for you guys.
Yeah.
No, I feel like I under hit everything. So I would probably show up with a 6. And just because that's where I feel like I need that little bit more. I don't know why.
Yeah, golf is one of those things where, I can remember like a few shots in my life where it's just like, golf is one of those things because, I don't know, unless you start hitting the ball, unless you have a lot of practice and you start hitting the ball pure, like, the majority of your swings, golf is one of those things where you do the feeling of hitting a ball pure is just so different from hitting it just like 1 degree off.
Oh, yeah.
Where the feeling of hitting it pure is almost like this like ecstasy, it feels like, for your body. At least that's how I feel when you hit a great golf shot. And so that's why it's so funny as you're like learning the game. It's like, even just like, I have a shot where I was it was at Gold Mountain Golf Course. I had flare. I haven't learned how to hit a driver in my whole life. Every other club, I'm fine. Never learned how to hit a driver. So I'm all sliced out right. I'm in the other fairway. I got some big pine to clear, and the green is probably, I don't know, 50 feet up or 60 feet up maybe to my left way over here. But I got this 100-foot tall tree, and the math you got to figure out to go like, okay, well, I need the angle, but I can't, I need it to land here, but I'm elevated here.
Without taking 7 shots, right? To get around that tree.
And like, I hit like a pure shot from there and landed it close to the hole. And it's like, that replays in my mind,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny when we talk about like that pure shot. When you first hit that shot, you think you've done something wrong because everything else is shit. And then you get this one shot and then you hear it from people like, oh, that was nice. I'm like, but it didn't feel good.
Yeah.
But then when you get used to what that feeling is, it's like amazing. You say it's like ecstasy, where then all of a sudden, then the next shot you throw, you go to chip in and you go 20 yards over the green and, you're just back to reality. Can I loop around to this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, so one thing that
We're at an hour already, so
we're doing good.
Yeah.
Okay. You let me know when we're good. So we've got a weird connection, and I don't even know if we were there at the same time now, because we're about 2 years apart in age. But this Cedar Springs Christian camp as kids. So my sister and brother and I, when we were kids, for 3 or 4 straight years, went to this thing from like 10 to 14 or 12 to 16, somewhere in that range. But I was talking with Will about it, and he had brought up, when you're telling people, you don't dial in what the camp's called, right? You just go, I went to Bible camp when I was a kid, or I went to Christian Bible school, or whatever it was. You don't tell them exactly what it is. And Will makes a comment, and he goes, oh, yeah, we went to this one called Cedar Springs. And I was like, holy shit, that one sounds super familiar. So, of course, I have no memory, so I've got to call my sister and be like, hey, what's the name of this place? And she's just like, oh, Cedar Springs. I was like, no way. So we start talking about it, and in that time frame, there's a really good chance that, like, you and I were at the same Christian Bible camp at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like the craziest thing, but it's still like weird to think about.
Yeah.
And of course, at the time, I think it was like the biggest one in Washington.
Yeah.
But I don't know how my mom always has a story about what it is, but it was like my grandparents or my great uncle or someone established the camp.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
we went to it, but then to find out, like, because both of us and Will were raised very similar, like in the church, and everything was about all that. Going to those camps every year, they were such a big deal, and you were there for a week or 2 weeks or whatever it was. But it just always blew my mind that, like, there's this weird chance that you and I, as only 2 years apart, very well could have been at the same camp around the same time, and that's still just like, that's just weird to think,
Yeah. Maybe I'll have to. Tammy's got a few photos from that time too. Maybe I'll have to bust them out and see if you're in the background. What have you been doing during that time? Maybe picking on somebody in the background.
I was giving kids wedgies and stuff. What's funny though is I remember they had these zip lines that were like 30-foot and 100-foot zip lines, and I remember just being so chicken shit to get up to the 100-foot zip line.
Yeah.
But then I would do the 30-foot one all day, like as many times as they would let me. I would do that if we weren't doing like some of the other things. But then I also remember one of the years, I don't know what year it was, a huge basketball tournament was happening at the same time. And I don't know if that was part of the camp or if it was a secondary thing, but as a kid that was also just obsessed with basketball, just loved it. But yeah, it was just unless I'm mixing two memories due to CTE that are like forming together, but like there was this huge area where people were playing basketball at the same time. So
I'm sure they had camps going all summer long, but one of my years, I remember them running a basketball tournament throughout that week of camp or whatever.
Okay, so I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
I totally thought I was, that's weird.
And now Landon's going to camp this year for the first time, middle school camp, but it's at a place called Camp Baraka, which is, I think, called Black Diamond Camps or something now.
Okay.
It's in Auburn, but.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, same thing, zip lines and games and whatever.
I couldn't even tell you, though, where what is it called? Cedar Springs. I couldn't tell you where it's at. I know we showed up. My mom packed it up like with this huge bag of food that was like our snacks, and of course, like in a day it was gone. Yeah. And then you're eating whatever else was there. But it was good times. It was fun, but it was just.
I never did the zip lines. I was probably a couple of years they were down. A couple of years I was just probably talking to girls or whatever.
How many years did you guys go?
To Cedar Springs? I don't know how many years I went but it probably would have been about. Maybe like 4 years or something I did there. Because we went to Fort Flagler for 2 years or something like that.
Was this for camps or is this
for... Yeah,
for
camps. Then, Cedar Springs. And I think there was a year where all the prices were changing and nobody wanted to admit that all the prices were going up everywhere. So they tried to do things where they were like, doing summer camp at the college and other stuff that was kind of janky, but
Remember the
I
the
think
year
maybe
before
4 years or something.
Okay, yeah. I want to say that we did like 3. My sister might have done 4, depending on like the ages of everything. But yeah, I remember bringing it up to Will because I always joked around about like being a Royal Ranger. And it was the Christian Boy Scouts, you know?
Oh, wait. So did you go to Assemblies of God church when you were growing up?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Then we might have been there.
We were, we were up in Mount Vernon. So we were at a place called Viewcrest. But yeah, we did the whole Royal Rangers thing from being a kid and crazy into youth groups and all that. And like, so that's where it's been hilarious because with Will, and then, you know, I'm assuming you and I will have these funny little conversations of like things that some other kids really can't relate to because of how they're grown up. And like, I'll hear stuff that you guys talk about on the podcast about stuff, and it just cracks me up because I'm like, hilarious. Oh shit, like that is the stuff that we dealt with growing up too, you know?
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah. Yeah, Tammy and I. Maybe Tammy and I will go through some pictures. Not that you'll be in them, but it'd be fun.
But it's just that weird.
Do you have any pictures or anything from that time? So maybe I should just pull them out so you can see them and have it jog your memory a little bit. That'd be funny.
Just stir up some of the CTE up there.
Yeah, let's see. I remember my first time I went to camp. I didn't even mean to do this, but I did not poop my whole.
For a whole week?
I think I was there like 6 days. I did not poop my whole time there. I don't know if I was too excited. I wasn't like too nervous or whatever. I showered. I did, I wasn't too, but yeah.
Your system could take a shock in those spots though.
Too much going on. Yeah, different girlfriend, every camp experience.
I remember the first year that I had a girlfriend during the camp, and that was the coolest thing ever. Because like the first one, it was just this, I'm just a dopey little shit running around. And the second one, it's like, whoa, who's that? You never talk to him ever again.
Yeah.
But it's like I can only imagine the world now with cell phones. Of like when we were kids. But back then, it was just like you kissed him goodbye, and it was like, where are you going? Oh, you're heading to Bellevue? God, that sounds like it's so far away. It's the other side of the mountains.
Yeah, there's this one, Amy Phillips. I think maybe she lived in maybe Lake Stevens or something like that. But it's the same thing. It's like we're like 14. Yeah. We might be still Instagram friends or Facebook or whatever. But I remember she sent me like baby pictures after. It was like some pictures were of her. It was like you're writing letters.
Wait, her baby pictures or you had a baby with her?
No. It was like she included with pictures of her were like pictures of her as a baby. And I was
that's
like,
weird.
What am I going to do with
I thought she was trying to get you on Maury to be like, you are the father.
Maybe it was. Maybe I missed
It was the year you were like 14 going there. It was just
maybe I was too caught up in the photos. Yeah.
Too caught up.
Kids don't even do that anymore. It's probably nudes now.
Oh, yeah. They're just, what the kids call it? Sexting?
Yeah.
Right? They're just sending nudes to each other.
This was just nice,
Just like a photo of her.
I graduated ninth grade.
Oh. That's the weirdest thing that our kids were never going to experience is the lack of that. Where we had that, like you said, we went to a full camp, met friends, had girls, all that stuff, and then walked away from it like it was nothing. And now they meet someone and don't get a number. They're like, oh, that bitch, oh, I can't believe that,
And the joy of like looking them up, like every once in a while, I just get a wild hair and just be like, oh, I wonder what my class from like 6th grade is up to. So
that's
bust
weird.
out the yearbook and look them up or whatever. Like, oh my gosh, they live in
I just had a friend reach out to me the other day on Facebook, and all it said was, I remember you were a cool person, always fun to talk to. We had a good time in elementary school, Jefferson Elementary, and that was it. But
awesome.
The person had such a name that you remember it, right?
Yeah.
It just sticks out. And I was like, oh, yeah, totally agree, But then my brain goes wild. It's like, oh, shit, are they doing okay? Why the fuck would they reach out?
Yeah.
Like, this is the craziest thing, Like, is this a cry for help or is this just a random thing? And then I'm like, it's a bot. Only a bot's doing this. But a bot doesn't know Jefferson Elementary.
Yeah. Well, I always think about it's like, I'll go like, oh, I remember this guy, like their whole personality in your memory is based on one 3-minute interaction you had with them in 10th grade or whatever. But it's like they live sort of they're memorialized in your mind because of that. Or if it was a messed up situation, it's like they live rent free in your head because of, XYZ. And it's just that tiny, tiny, tiny little interaction. But it's just like burned in your memory. And I sort of like, I can get myself like spiraling sometimes because I'm like,
totally.
Oh my gosh, people have that of me. And I'm like,
there's someone out there that thinks about you and goes,
what
Michael
stupid
Browning,
thing?
Jesus Christ.
I know.
And you're just like, wait, what? What did I do? See, I think
I
of
might have done it actually.
You're like, there's a good chance it happened. I think about that, like why. So you're closer to where you grew up than I am, right?
Yeah.
And so I've got probably like 2 or 3 people that I went to elementary school with that I still have some type of interaction at. And then like my best friend, Victor Molina, when I was a kid, was like, he's over in Tacoma now. Like we don't really hang out, but it's cool like through Instagram and all that, to like see each other's families and just go, oh man, you're doing good, I'm doing good. But then you think about the people that are up there where it's like, oh man, there's people that I remember vividly that had like these good reactions. Do they even remember anything? Where like you're saying, it's like there's someone up there that remembers you, that remembers me for that. And I might just go, what?
Yeah.
Shit, we had 3rd grade together?
Yeah.
And you remember me? Oh yeah, you were, loud, dumb shit. So it made sense. But it's always a trip. Do you like getting those messages though from like, if you ever get those, like, do you appreciate it or does it kind of weird you out?
Yeah. Actually, I put something about Adderall on Instagram or Facebook or something when I started taking it. And a bunch of these people reached out to me who I went to school with, who I never talked to before. And besides the fact that it was fun to sort of talk about that because I was just starting it, it was cool to just sort of reconnect and see like, hey, what's up with your life? What's up with yours? And all that stuff is cool. And it's just weird. You don't want to accidentally double tap somebody's Instagram, when you're 2 years back or whatever.
See, I'll give John this. John is very open about the fact that if he meets someone new or if like someone there, he's like, oh, I go back 10 years on their life. So we have a new guy at the gym that joined up and he was talking about it. He goes, oh, did you see the whatever he did? And I go, no. And he's like, oh shit, I was 10 years deep looking at stuff. And I was like, what if you accidentally double tap or like that? And he's like, oh, that's just life, man. And I was like, okay, cool. We're like, you and I are in that mode where I'm like, oh yeah, I'll scroll for a little bit and just see what's going on.
Well, that story I said tonight about like looking up about, and I was talking about like the Christian school or whatever this person went to, but it was like, that was just somebody I talked to at work today. And she scheduled a meeting with me and everything. And if I would have accidentally like double tapped her Instagram, from 2021,
yep.
That would have been like, that would have been mortifying. But it's just like,
but we also have to understand as people now, that's what people do. Right? Like that's kind of what we do. Totally. It's like you'll go back. I mean, I think the first time that like you and I got beyond the fact of just like I knew you from the podcast, we became friends on social media. And so like you're scrolling and just going like, who is this guy? Like I know he's Will's brother, but like who is he? But then if I, like you say, if I liked that post, is it like, Nate's a fucking weirdo? And instead it's more of just like, I am anyways, but here we go. But like, I feel like we need to like normalize the fact that that's what it's there for.
Yeah.
I almost want you to go back and look at some stuff and cause why wouldn't I delete it then?
Right.
And so it's like, go back, before we ever knew each other. Cause the funny part about that is like both of us, I mean, and not just you and I, but like in life, we've all got these crazy lives that we've lived pre any of this stuff, right? So we're just bound to do that as people.
Yeah.
It's also funny to see people that go clean up their social media and some people that don't.
Yeah.
I mean, like I went through the whole divorce thing, and so I went through and did the whole like 2 a.m. just deleting photos and changing status and all that shit. And then there's some people that just, hey, there's me and my husband, and then there's me and my new boyfriend, and then there's me and and it's like, whoa, that's all there.
Yeah.
That's just all for the looking. So
yeah. I remember I went on one Cambodia trip, and I had all these like high schoolers on the trip and everything. And it was like the first time I heard about like people like deleting their Instagram and starting over. I was just like, it like blew my mind. I was like, oh wait, you can do that? You can like, not that I didn't know you could do that, but it's just like, it never even crossed my mind to be like,
It's almost like
Okay, just
also
start over?
social media hiatuses.
Yeah.
Where people like make these like grand, proclamations about like, hey, everyone,
Yeah.
I'm taking 6 weeks off. I need a little bit. It's like, no one fucking cares. Like, I'm not trying to be a
Yeah.
jerk. I'm just trying to say, like, you can do it without, like, I rarely go on Facebook anymore. If you want to call it a hiatus, that's fine. I go and look at stuff.
Yeah.
I run a business, so I have to be on one aspect of it. But yeah, the whole like, oh, let's make the post. And then you get, you'll only come back when it's your birthday and you're putting your Cash App up there. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
calm down, Linda. All right.
Yeah.
Social media.
Yeah, so I do think it would really be fun to this summer to figure out a way to do a, Big Nate's patio, summertime, Gig Harbor, bash,
Oh, yeah.
podcast, something. We got to figure out, we got to brainstorm how to do that because I think it'd be cool to have like a little bit of an event.
Yeah, go down and just, even if we're at the shop or go out on the deck and just relax, maybe get like 3 or 4 of us. I mean, I think it'd be a fun episode. I'll see how you handle John after you have him on the show.
Yeah, that's how I wanted to wrap up. Do you want to, given that, I don't know when the next time you'll be on, but if you would like to send a message or now that you're here or John's episode will come out after you.
Right.
And
I really appreciate you guys having me on first.
And
too.
actually, you know what is he'll record. I just reached out to him today to figure out when in the next couple of weeks we'll get together. So obviously he's not going to hear this
right
before. So you can really say whatever you want. So now's your opportunity to sort of, say like, hey, John's coming up next week or whatever, but here's the kind of guy he is or whatever. So
yeah, just like
if you'd like to take the opportunity or say anything about John, Will,
Yeah, John's, just one of the worst people you'll ever meet. It's going to be 2 hours of hell for you. No, I'm kidding. John's great. Yeah, I think it'll be an adventure. I wonder how he's going to be on it with, I don't know. I think we can build ourselves up for this thing, even though it's just like 2 friends talking.
Yeah.
Like you can I'm driving over, like, wonder what's going to come up. I wonder how we're going to talk about this or whatever.
Do you think I could make him cry?
Oh, yeah. All you got, just like put a sad song in the background. John cries over everything. So he's like, a grocery bag goes across too fast in front of him and he's going to break down into tears.
Oh, I think I have a mission now.
So this is like, and this isn't like bad or like spoiler alert, but when I asked him to be my best man, oh man, in tears, in absolute tears.
Oh wait, you did that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've done some of the things. So that's okay to be let out. So there's some of the side, Mama's side is not quite done yet.
That's been in my pocket. Shout out to everybody because I knew early.
Yeah, it's there's a couple people that know. I actually think as of right now,
Randomly, I knew early.
right? Which is so weird when you think about that, right? Like there's like things people know and some that don't know. But no, it's great. And then the other spoiler is that Will be in my party too. I know I had to invite him. Lauren paid me a good chunk of money to make sure he was there. So
She's got it.
Yep. But yeah, no, it's I don't know. As far as John, it's just, you probably get him to cry pretty quick and ask him about his terrible wrists with jiu-jitsu. And then you probably won't ask him that. And then just why he gives bad haircuts to the harbor. That's the biggest thing. They've been lying to people forever saying they're making him handsome since the 81. And it's just his dad, not him.
But I want to know, why can't you show up on time for a haircut?
Because I book 3 or 4 a week and then I just like randomly just don't show up. So he called me today after, first of all, I've never missed a haircut. Actually one, but it was his fault. But he called me today and had 3 no-shows in a row. And I was like, how does that happen? And one guy called up and said, I'm 20 minutes out. And he's like, we're appointment based. You get 20 minutes, but it's so strange. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a message for Will. Miss hearing him, but I get that he's got daddy stuff going on and he'll get back in the groove soon.
Yeah, well, it turned out to be kind of a funny thing because I was like, well, I'll line all this up so you don't feel like you have to feel pressure or whatever. And then, of course, I sort of knew this was happening in the back of my mind, and then it's like he has all the time in the world. He can record, 1,000 podcasts.
Yeah, but I think, maybe I'm guessing on your mindset there is that we remember what it was like to go through some of that stuff. And we probably came from that different era too, where we were working a little bit more than I had a week off when my daughter was born. That was it.
Yeah.
And you're just like, you feel like you're busy on everything. Babies are up every, for 4 hours and they're asleep for 2 hours or whatever it is. So until you really get into that like cycle of like the 6 month mark, so you guys are probably just being a little proactive of like, hey, you don't have to worry. But then you sit back and go, I've got all this time,
And I don't have to hear him for a couple weeks. So
right. Get that voice out of your head.
Yeah.
And you guys will come back. Hopefully we'll see what happens. Maybe he comes back with some like, new stories, not just the like simple, like, oh yeah, I cleaned up, tar shit, or, the baby threw up on me.
We talked a lot about that.
And it's an adventure.
I don't know if I said this with his episode. Maybe I did say it on one. I can't remember. Maybe I cut it out, but he, the first meme he sent me after, or TikTok, whatever, is, after Isla was born, was this video. It was like I took this picture through a window pane, that had, rain dripping down on it, and it looked sort of looked like an impressionist painting or whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? It took, this love of his life, has his child. They're so in love. He's moved, and all of a sudden he's transformed and in touch with his emotions. And he's sending me this video, and I was just like, man, who is this guy?
He finds love and turns into a contemporary artist. You're just like, I don't know if that's how it's supposed to go.
And then the next, is like a 500-pound, person falling off a dock somewhere or something. I was like, okay, he's back.
And we got him back.
Yeah. It took an hour, he found kindness for an hour and then returned to his normal self. So
you find that moment of peace and clarity and like, oh my God, this is everything I've wanted in life. And then he's just like, look at that fat cat right there saying, not right here, partner. Not right here.
All right. Well, Nate, thanks for being on the pod. This is the first podcast without, not being somebody I've known for, decades. So
yeah,
this is pretty cool.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Coming over. And I don't know how to end it I'll end it by saying Declan's looking at me through the cat door because he's like, I promised him we'd play Minecraft when we were over.
Meow. He's like, hurry up, Dad. I need to play Minecraft. Kick Nathan out. Bye.